Slack 104 all about our automations for agents to make their lives easier and how our compliance works. So, I mean, technically, this is like a secret. So, like, don't share this with anybody if you're watching this. But what we did was we threw out all of the traditional ways of doing auditing. And we made it so that it was agent focused as far as, it's okay if it takes our staff a little longer to audit the file, if it saves our agents time. And if this is easier for our agents. So with that principle, that's why we are e-sign platform of choice, because sometimes your association or your state provides an e-sign with all of their documents. We just maybe need to load in our company wire fraud and a few things, right? And that is easy for agents. And then if you don't have that or you don't like it, we do offer dot loop if you want that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you get documents signed in person, DocuSign, Form Simplicity. You just have to get them into Slack. And so uploading those PDFs and even emailing them in is usually a lot easier for agents. We also, with Slack, I'll show you how we create the emails and including that email on all of your communication with your client, with the other side, with your lender, houses all that communication. And most states require that you maintain all of your communication throughout the transaction so that we can reference it if we need to. So without further ado, share my screen. The three big automations I want to show you today are how you create a file once you get in Slack, what that process looks like from beginning to end, including requesting the CDA and the start my paperwork, and then start my referral. So we'll just go over this. So there's a Slack app. You can do most of this on your phone as well, but I'm showing it from the computer. But we want to make sure everything is mobile friendly. So the first thing you do is you come into your transactions only, and you as agents wouldn't have all these, so don't get overwhelmed. You would just see your files. So you would go to transactions only, down here to instructions, start here. And here's where we have instructions about what this workspace is for. But down here is the magic button. This is what is different from every other company. You click start my file. Every agent has an ID. You know what your ID is. You fill out this simple form because what you're doing is you're letting Slack know what kind of channel you need to create. So we're going to go ahead and do referral. We'll say active. It's my sphere. Testing. I think I already did test. So. If you know the property address, if you're referring a listing, for example, then you could plug that in here. And then state abbreviation. So this form is for everything. I should have gone over that. Whether it's a buyer, a listing, a referral, or other, it's what's going to help you create a transaction file. So if you have an address, you would put it there. The state that the transaction is in, unless you're processing a referral. So if you're processing a referral, it needs to come through the state that you're licensed in or your primary state. So in this case, we'll just say Iowa. And then any notes. You can never leave too many notes, right? So outgoing, referral, brother-in-law, Michigan, incoming check. Whoop, whoop. Did we decide, team, if agents need to create a referral channel for in-house referrals? I just thought of that.
Yeah, so if it's a co-agent, right, then they would just list the percentage, right, their splits in the topic. And then if it's a referral, then yeah, they would have to create their own.
Okay, perfect. So that way you can track it and it's creating your own file to make sure that you get that. So this also applies for our referral agents and our two agents. So if you are, a referral agent with two and you're doing referrals, this is exactly how you would create a channel. So it pre-populated with this. Now, because it's a referral, it didn't add any canvases. So I'll show you a buyer or seller one at the end if we have time. But with buyers and sellers, it actually creates two canvases and they are checklists. This is amazing, right? Over the years, I've always had agents say, hey, what do I need to do for this listing? What do I need to do for this buyer? So we have created step-by-step checklists to lead an agent from beginning to end, even post-closing stuff on like things you can and should do. Of course, at the end of the day, most of them are optional, but you asked and we provided it. So here's my channel. Now I have it so that compliance knows compliance was added as well as my state broker. And it says, congratulations on your outgoing referral and incoming check. Once you have a fully executed referral agreement and W-9, please fill out the following form. So before we do that, I want to show you if I need help doing my referral. And we created this because sometimes that's on the fly, right? My brother-in-law calls me and is like, hey, we're ready to buy a house. Well, you don't want to sleep on that. You don't necessarily want to wait till you get home or whatever. But I've verbally entered into agreements before where after then, I go to do the paperwork and they're like, well, no, I'm not going to pay you, or I'm going to pay you less, or they try to renegotiate because it wasn't in writing. So to protect our agents, we created this system. So you do forward slash right now, you do forward slash start my referral. And this says use this form to easily create a referral agreement on the go. So it'll take you to our type form. It says, look, the average to fill this out is 1 minute and 30 seconds. So here's where you have some choices on compensation. So I'm going to go over them. So receiving brokerage shall pay the referring. I wanted you to see what this paragraph looked like on the referral agreement so that you could refresh your memory each time. So like, how are you going to get compensated for this referral? We suggest that especially if it's a pre-approved buyer or you're basically handing this person over on a silver platter, don't be afraid to ask for 35 because all these other big companies do. And they're not even warm lead, like they're not even good leads most of the time. So if you're giving someone a lead on a silver platter, 35%, great. That's what your company suggests. Otherwise, you can change it, and there'll be a place down the road where you can plug in the percentage that you want. Or are you going to charge a flat amount? Are you going to hold them to a minimum of $500 because you have fees to pay too, right? And then the entire compensation earned by the receiving brokerage in connection with the transaction. Um, that is simple. That is optional, but we added it because a lot of these other big companies are doing this. And what it means is simply that, let's say you send your client a listing referral, and then they double end it. That exact agent double ends it. You're basically saying, hey, I want my percentage based off the entire compensation for the buyer and the seller. I have mixed feelings about it, but we like to give our agents freedom to choose. So we wanted to make sure they knew that that was an option. So in this case, let's say we're doing 20%, but a minimum of $500. So you would check the two that apply that you want on the paperwork. If you selected a flat amount, what would you request? You can leave it blank. Here's where we have to do some if this then that. So I got to get Sandy. So here's where I would type in, the 20% instead of the 35. Who's your managing broker? So remind me, Josh, I got to add you to this. I got to add this to the broker onboarding checklist too, Nate. But it's me. The agreement shall remain valid for 24 months from the effective date or until the clients have completed a minimum of how many transactions. So do you know that this person's going to sell and buy? Do two. Is it an investor who's like, hey, I want to pick up 20 properties this year? And you're like, 20 or 5, whatever you and the other agent have agreed to. I would discuss this before you send it over, though. You always want to set proper expectations with people and always think about like if the shoe were on the other foot. So whatever you guys, agree is fair, put that number in there. And you're done because it's not asking me to sign yet.
Have a copy that, see, Holly Brink sent you a document to review. Give me 2 seconds. It's populating. Continue. Yep, I got for me to, okay, so let me.
Okay, you want to share your screen so I can see it?
Oh, I just hit finish, of course.
Okay, that's fine.
So I signed on the other side.
It was that easy for the other agent to sign. So,
Yeah.
so all she probably saw though was like a beginning date, an end date, the agreement part, but not the client information. So that's what I wanted to show you. So yeah, after this, I'll fix some automations, but now the broker sees the whole thing, makes sure that it's, compliant, it's got all the information it needs.
Beautiful that it goes from the first agent to the second agent to the broker and then can get sent to the last broker.
Yeah. Now the other agent will receive it to sign it. No, then they have to actually, sorry, that's what it is. They need to ask their broker to sign it. Now, our referral agreement says, hey, if your broker doesn't sign it, this is still enforceable. However, in different states, that might not work. If their company policy is that their agents can't bind the brokerage to referral agreements. So you always want to make sure that you're getting that signed back from the other agent for your records. Most agents do the right thing. We don't have a lot of issues, but I would hate to do that. So look, completed referral agreement. So now Anne should have in her email as well, the referral agreement and our W-9 because their company will ask for that. So let me go back to Slack. So now that you have the referral agreement, you can upload it here by filling out some more information. Let's see what's optional. What's not optional? Okay, referred to. And AIDS, let's pretend she's fine. There we go. And the referral amount, I'm expecting about $1,500. So once you know, like your referral is under contract and you have an amount, great. If you don't know, it's not required. It's not a required. Is it a required? I guess it is. So now it's putting that information in here. And this is why you'd have your client information as well. But once you know, hey, it's been settled, it's ready to go, then you notify our team that the file is ready to settle and they're getting emails when that is pushed. So let me show you really quick on creating a buyer file. And we won't run through all the paperwork on the next one. I just want to show you how that's a little bit different and it's important to follow the process.
So up to instructions. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, so start my file.
And while you're doing that, I do want to kind of beat a dead horse. When it comes to the referrals, please get the broker to sign. Like I ran into that issue where the other broker on the other side was like, oh yeah, I have a copy of it. And like, send it today. Don't wait a week. Don't wait a day. So you know how people, time gets in front of us and we don't need it until we need it, but it's good to get it signed just all on that same day, get it sent back to your, keep it in your file.
So we'll just say this is a listing lead and I'm part of the TC program. So I'm going to say listing appointment Friday at 5 p.m. And then which time zone I'm in. Okay, so I filled out this brief form and it's going to create a channel here in just a minute. There it is. So again, compliance and the state broker will be added to this. If, always verify that the TC has been added if you are in the TC program. So this gives all this basic information. Up here is the checklist I was telling you about, where we have like the documents, but here's all the suggested tasks. And if there is a blue line, we've linked to a training or an explainer video, and then what to do after closings if you track it on Google. I mean, this right here is gold, right? This right here is what helps our agents who have left teams start being independent on their own, because somebody else was doing all this stuff for them and they had no idea. So I think that's underrated. And then of course, just so you know, as you're uploading stuff, you can check things off as you go as well. This TQ only, that's for our compliance team. So you never want to mess with that form. Never check off anything. You're just going to check stuff off if you want to. You don't even have to, but if you need to keep track. So I'm going to come back over here to messages, and I'm going to do two things. It asks for client contact info. If I think of it, I'm going to create the email. And if I forget, compliance will probably do it for me. You can change default stuff though, which is funny. I don't know. I like doing it, but you don't have to. So now that you created it, it's actually going to be here. You're going to want to share it. I always go from this Slack thing and I delete this so that it's a lot smaller.
And then pin it.
And then you pin it so that it's easily findable no matter how long this thread goes. Now I have this email that I'm going to copy on all my communication with the other agent, my client, title. But we still need the client contact info in order to create the file because sometimes things happen and we have to reach out. So we need to know what's going on. So we just added client contact information. We just have to give it a minute for it to fire and then it will actually come in here. It changed the channel topic now so that at a glance, I can see my client's name, email, and phone number. It also added their information over here. And so now I have two choices. If it's we have some guidelines on the TC program as far as time and turnaround and promises. But if I need help and I have time and I'm like, okay, so this was a listing, I have the listing appointment on Friday, I have time for the TC to help me with my listing documents, I will click start my paperwork. If you're not part of the TC program, then this isn't for you. Actually, is it too late to show that? Yeah, it broke down kind of what is what. And I got to add a how-to video here, but this is just asking like, hey, what's your name as the agent? Because we need to know who to match it up to. Have you created a Slack channel? Yes, I did. If not, please start one. That's where I'm going to do the tutorial and plug it in there. But it should say, if yes, please like paste the channel name here. And that I just get from right here. Copy, paste. And then, oh, whatever, that's not a deal breaker, but you definitely want to put your Slack channel email in here. And eventually then I'll have this whole thing like email in, but we want to know what that is. Which state is this deal in? Iowa. That way our team knows which team should get it. Forms preference, no preference. I like using the state docs. If you want to use specific association docs, great. Client type. So again, let's see, in this case, it is an individual. So depending on how many signers you have. So now this is the different kind of paperwork that our transaction coordination department can work with, like help you with. So in this case, it's a new listing packet. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but it'll take you through the listing property, ask you what kind of disclosures you need. It's a fairly simple process. Let me see really quick. So it's saying it takes about 3 minutes. So I'd say 3 to 5 minutes to fill this out. And then these are the turnaround times for right now for the TC department, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We're not open. We don't make them work on federal holidays. Listing and buyer agreements by the next business day, offers within 4 hours, business hours, counters, amendments, and repairs within 2. So you can always message if you need it faster or it's outside those hours. We do have some extra, like if you really want help outside those hours, you can pay for it. Then let's say I do the listing, I get the listing. We've probably put more stuff in here by then, a copy of the listing paperwork, all that. But when the time comes that we have a pending contract, then either the agent or the TC will do pending contract details. And here's where you'll fill in a bunch of stuff. Let's see what's required. Yeah. So you have to fill in the seller or closing company, like all this information, because we need to know where the buyer needs to deposit their trust information, right? So buyer agent names, again, this is a listing. So I'll just say and A's. This is not sending out any emails or anything. This is just putting the information in your file, which all of the different like Sky Slope does this. You have to put all this information in there anyways when you create a file. So this isn't anything special. What's the agreed upon sales price? When was the contract initiated? But when was it accepted? When did all parties sign that bad boy? How much earnest money is there? When is the earnest money due by? Every state has a different requirement, and our team just needs to know so they can chase down that earnest money. Now, if this information is in there and it applies, I would fill it out because it triggers automations and reminders for our team, our compliance team, and our TC team. But the home inspection might not apply, right? So we didn't make it required. An appraisal might not apply, so we didn't make it required. Then when is it going to close? If all goes well, we're going to close on the 19th. Is the seller paying the full home warranty? Is the buyer paying? Who's ordering it? All of like what company do you prefer? Anything else we should know as far as the contract? Now, how much is the listing agent getting compensated? How much is the buyer agent getting compensated? Those again are optional, but you get it, hopefully. So then you submit it and you give it some time to work its magic. And now all of the contract details are in here and easy to reference for everybody. So at some point, either, our compliance team will say, hey, can you request a CDA? We like to do it actually as soon as possible in the transaction, even if it means we have to change it down the road. But this is our CDA on demand, and we think this makes us unique as well. Our agents are in full control. So it takes approximately 2 minutes to fill this out. And once you're done, you as the agent will get a copy to sign. The broker will get a copy to sign. And then a copy will go to whatever closing company email you put in the form when you're filling it out. And then right now, if someone has to manually add it to the channel, again, it's on the roadmap, so that'll all be automated. And then once you've done that, that's funny. Okay, so I have to complete the CDA. We'll just do a quick one so that you can see the next automation. I build it. I just don't use it a lot. So you always want to put your company email. Is there another MyRico agent on this file, like a co-agent? No. Who did I represent? Was the seller? Do I need to pay any referral fees to anybody? No. Do I owe MyRico any fees? No. Do I owe a commission advance? No. What was the sales price? What is the subject property? Again, I know there's some duplicate entry. We're working on all of that. Uh, the seller's names, no matter who you represented, we need to know everybody's name, right? So Betty Buyer for the CDA. This was discontinued, so we'll actually probably remove this soon. I would say this should probably just be a Slack channel,
I
but
just typed in the word Slack. Yeah.
Slack, yeah, for now. Again, with the projected close date. Okay, so here's where things get, itemized. How much is the seller paying towards my compensation? We'll say $2,000. But how much is the buyer paying? Is it the admin fee? Is it the difference of what I charged? Maybe in this case, they're paying $5,000. Is there any other compensation to be added to your gross amount that we didn't cover? This, needs to be disclosed. Yep, I can update that as well. This used to math write in type form, and now it doesn't. So this whole % thing doesn't apply. So congratulations, please remember to sign the CDA. That's where most of our agents forget. They fill this out and then they forget to go to their email and actually sign it. Here's where you have to plug in your closing company, but I'm just going to send it to Anne so she actually gets it and not somebody else getting confused. And no notes, but if it's a personal transaction, here's where you'd put it because we would only deduct the $250 from you. Do you understand all the file requirements before we pay? So we make things easy, but we're still very thorough. So we still want to pay you in 60 seconds once we have the closing documents and the payment has been received, but we're not going to pay you until your file is complete. So you have to confirm you know that. So now your CD on demand is complete. Please e-sign the copy in your email box. So we'll go back to my email. Why is it doing that? We're almost done. So there, it's in my email, CDA review. So you do want to check it to make sure things are right. See, that's what I was saying, and there's just something there, so I gotta tweak that automation, but you
Yeah.
can fix the address if it's wrong.
Add that to the to-do list.
Yeah. The appointed agent, sales price. So you still have an opportunity now as the agent, like how much am I expecting? Probably not a $63,000 commission, so I made a mistake somewhere, right? So we'll just say 3,000. And then make sure that this all adds up to this number. Transaction ID Slack, that's why we're going to update this information because we do have transaction numbers, but they're on the back end and you as the agent don't know that. So we'll update that. Now, Anne, what is the process if an agent's like, hey, we're pushing this back, or hey, my commission has changed?
Great question. You just communicate it to us. We then communicate it to, especially if your TC with a TC, we'll communicate any commission changes with your closing company. But then we also want to make sure that we have it on our calendar, that we understand what we're expecting when closing comes. So communicate it in your channel at the very least. You'll go to that specific channel.
Yeah, and we'll just revise the CDA, you
Yeah,
know,
straightforward.
if necessary. Okay.
Long story short, don't make a new CDA.
Right. Do not do that. So I signed it as the agent, and now it's come to the broker to sign. So I'm going to sign it. You know, double check kind of the information, other options. This is, you wouldn't do this as the broker. So we'll just continue. Now this is locked in. The broker can't actually change anything. So if the broker notices a problem, then they kind of have to stop the ball, or they can sign it and then in the channel communicate there's an issue that needs to be fixed. So Betty buyer, the address, all the things. So once the broker signs, now and our closing company should get a copy of it. And again, at this time, it's not automated, so you would need to update it, upload it to that Slack channel. But then Annie said, then in your Slack channel, now that the is done,
It did not come through.
yeah, so we'll double check that. But usually there's a thing there that's like, hey, my file's ready to settle. Now our team's on it. You don't even have to push the button, but there's usually a button that will come up and say, hey, this is ready to settle, and it'll notify everybody. So I'll mess with that automation today. Any questions? I know this was a lot. All right. Well, I know it feels like a lot, but it actually doesn't take that long, especially once you get the hang of it, or if you're enrolled in the TC program. And it's no different than the data collection all the other brokerages need when creating an account in, you know, Lone Wolf or SkySlope or whatever. So we're just trying to make things as easy as possible on our agents so they can focus on recruiting or, you know, have a little bit extra time to spend with their family. So any other comments or questions before I close this out? All right. When in doubt, reach out, message us if you need us. We are here for you. We all started this morning with a blank slate at 0. So go out and talk to a buyer, a seller, or an agent today. Have a good one. Bye.